UFC 281 may be headlined by two title fights, but the people's fight is between lightweights Michael Chandler and Dustin Poirier, two of the most well-respected fighters in the organization, and they're never known to have a bad fight. But before they duke it out at Madison Square Garden, I spoke to both of them about the perceived beef over some damn hot sauce, what the future holds, and maybe if one day these two could have a beer together. Check it out right here on Fighting Words with me, Andreas Hale. Let's talk about the fight with Chandler, because this is one of the fights that everybody's looking forward to. You know why, everybody knows why. But where did this beef start? Do you think it's something that like Michael kind of created in his head? Because it felt like that he was offended by the hot sauce thing, but it felt like it wasn't something that he should be so offended by.
Yeah, it's a hell of a sauce. I'm not sure. I guess I think he took that as I was taking shots at him after the fight in Abu Dhabi, when they asked me if I wanted to fight him next. I just wanted to see the guy cut his teeth, earn his stripes, get out there with some of the best guys. You know, not discrediting anything he's done in his career. He's a former world champion, beat some incredible opponents, but he just came that particular night. He had just won his first fight in the UFC. And I just wasn't in the space to even entertain it at that moment. But since then, I mean, he's gone on and won fights, lost fights, put on some great shows, had a hell of a fight with Justin Gaethje. He's earned his stripes, and this fight makes sense now.
You felt a little slighted by what Dustin said, and that kind of led to this beef, but it feels more competitive than actual feud.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all rooted in competition. He's trying to climb the same mountain I am, and we're trying to get there faster than the other guy. Each one of us is trying to get there faster than the other guy. But I think it is a little bit interesting too, because I think there's a ton of mutual respect there. I would put Dustin Poirier on the Mount Rushmore of the guys that I respect the most in this sport, as well as the guys that I've kind of had the most cordial interactions with. And then all of a sudden, he said some things, and then I said some things, and now both of us are kind of thinking, wait, maybe I don't like this guy as much as I do. And by the way, we're about to fight each other in front of millions of people. So let's just go ahead and push aside any kind of, happiness or like that I have toward this guy. And let's go out there and settle it like men. And, rest assured, November 12th, it will end with a handshake and a hug. And hey, man, best of luck on the next one.
Absolutely. And to be clear, it was the hot sauce. That he'd rather be selling hot sauce than fighting you. And when you heard that, immediately what went through your mind? Were you like, what is this guy talking about? Like, it had to be a kind of a shock that he would say something like that.
Yeah, it was, kind of similar to what he said. I was really nice and cordial. Then I said something in the media, but it was the same thing with him as well. We were very cordial, and then he fights Connor, I fight Dan Hooker, and then he gets on the mic and said he'd rather be a hot sauce salesman than fight me. So I think both of us were just like, wait a second, who you were, when we talked about, and that's the thing though too. I don't think it's fake. I don't think it's someone being two-faced. I think Dustin stood on the mountain of, hey, this guy hasn't earned his stripes yet, so he doesn't deserve to fight me, and that's fine. I completely understand that. But I also realized I came into the UFC, made a lot of noise, and a lot of people were talking about me, and I climbed the mountain pretty quickly. And then it turned into, hey, does Dustin Poirier still just want to sell hot sauce, or would he rather fight me? And I was, I had better things to do. So, ultimately we have a ton of respect for each other, especially when it comes to the physicality of the actual competition that we're getting into November 12th. And we'll see how it all plays out.
You guys are both like community people. You both always come to fight. It seems like this is a fight between two guys that 5 years down the line, you guys will have a drink at a bar. I'm not saying that's going to happen for sure, but I'm just saying that it just seems like you guys have a lot of similarities in your careers.
I'm not sure if you're representing the charity stuff. I'm not sure of what he has going on and what he's done, but it's possible. I don't know a whole lot about him personally.
Is Dustin Poirier somebody that you could see maybe 5 years down the line that you could share a drink at a bar with and really have a kinship? I don't know if a lot of fighters end up becoming friends, but it seems like you guys are this is like peanut butter and jelly. These are two guys that are made for each other in the octagon and maybe outside the octagon.
No, and I think that adds a little bit of a wrinkle to it as well. I think if you made a list of people, you're like, hey, who would I want to go have a drink with? Who could I have a normal conversation with and be like, hey, I kind of like that guy, even though we might have to compete against each other. I think Dustin Poirier would put me on his list and I would put him on my list. So I think that's why I think that is somewhat of the root of all of this as well, where it was just like, wait a second, none of this makes sense to me. And my opinion of him has changed, but ultimately the respect level for each of us, I think, is high. So the answer to your question is, yeah, I do think that from the guy that he is, from my respect for him or who he is inside the octagon, my respect for him or who he is outside of the octagon is sky high in both regards. So I think that might actually come to fruition sometime down the line. We'll see.
Does your fight with Chandler go the distance? Do you see this thing going? And I don't want to make a prediction, but do you think there's any chance this thing goes the distance?
Of course, there's a chance it does. But if it does, I believe we're both going to the hospital. I don't think this goes 15 minutes.
In your head, is there any chance that this fight goes the distance with Poirier? Do you envision this thing going the distance? But because the way you guys fight is just not conducive to having the judges involved.
Yeah, I mean, both of us want the finish. That's one thing that we are definitely equally yoked in. We want the finish. We go for the finish. When we get a guy hurt, we go for the finish. So I think ultimately, if I was a betting man, I think this fight's going to end in a finish some way, somehow. But if it doesn't, the fans are going to be in for a treat for sure.
When I say I'm looking forward to this fight, my man, I am looking forward to this fight because this is just what the fans want. And this is why we love MMA. Boxing doesn't necessarily give us what we want all the time, but the UFC and MMA does. So I'm truly looking forward to it. Good luck to you, and I hope to get to speak to you again.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you, man. Have a good one.